Hi, everyone. I am so excited you are here tonight for joining us on this Facebook Live. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Dr. Lily Hall, and I'm a clinical psychologist at the Child Mind Institute. We are a national nonprofit that supports children and families with gold standard mental health care, advice, and resources, all online and accessible to everyone. You can learn more about our available resources for parents and families during the coronavirus crisis, including telehealth support such as evaluations and treatment, by visiting childmind.org/coronavirus. Today, I am talking about my absolute favorite topic. It is that of mindfulness and how you can incorporate mindfulness into your day, every single day. I will do my best to answer your questions specifically related to mindfulness, and those that are not related to mindfulness, I welcome all questions and I invite you to just incorporate them into our Facebook Live feed. But if for any reason I am unable to get to your questions today, there are a few ways that you can get the answers that you need. So the first thing is, remember, we're right back here at 10 a.m. and we are presenting on Monday at 10 a.m. and Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. We also have a team that's looking through your questions daily on our different social media platforms, and so we will do our best to incorporate your questions and provide answers and solutions and strategies as best as possible through our multiple resources. So as we get started, I welcome you to comment in on our Facebook Live feed. I will be checking them out as we go, but briefly, I'm just going to give you a little bit of information and background on my relationship with mindfulness and kind of how I stumbled upon the beauty of mindfulness. So I have been practicing mindfulness for a few decades, and I kind of stumbled upon it when I was in college. And at that time, my family was actually going through a family crisis. And I was always an avid runner. I performed in cross country through high school and the early parts of college. And I was very competitive and very into running. And running was always kind of my outlet, which is wonderful. I was so grateful to have running. However, at the time when I was managing this family crisis, I really didn't find the energy that I needed through running. And so fortunately, I stumbled upon mindfulness through yoga at my local gym. And there was a practice there. It was a beginner practice, and it was on Saturdays and Sundays. And I participated in it. And I will say that at the very, very beginning, I participated in I believe it was a 60-minute class, and I could not touch my toes, and my wrists were absolutely killing me through the yoga practice. And I was telling my yoga instructor, I said, I swear something is wrong with me, because I think bones are going to be coming out of my wrist. It was just so excruciating and so painful. And she said, just stick with it, which was incredible advice. And what I really noticed through my practice with yoga specifically was that it helped me to be very grounded. And what I noticed more specifically about that grounding process was the power of the breath. And so as I kind of transformed through this evolution of practicing yoga, I continued to return to it, especially when I was in any state of either a life crisis or just any kind of personal stress. I really found that it grounded me, and it really allowed me to be present in the moment, which essentially is the point of yoga, and the point of mindfulness. So mindfulness, being defined as being actively aware, so really paying attention in the moment, and also having a self-compassion to whatever thoughts, feelings, and body sensations are coming up. So having that acceptance, right? That is the power of mindfulness. And we practice yoga, or we practice meditation, really to cultivate that mindfulness. So it's really a connection of body, mind, spirit. And it's really a connection of yourself, your physical body, your mental state with the outside world. Okay, so it's really having this union and this unity of mind, body, spirit within you as one, and then your connection with the outside world. And I found that through practicing yoga, I continued to feel grounded. And there were times I would drift away, and then I would come back, and I continued to just feel this immense power from the breath and through being in a state of mindfulness. And so as I continued to come back to it, I thought, I really need to be teaching this to kids, because this is absolutely powerful, and why not teach it to kiddos who are either having disruptive behaviors, who are experiencing inattention and impulsivity, especially in the classroom environment, who are having difficulty focusing, right? And also for kids who are that are either in a state of sadness, or for kids who are feeling anxious. And so I decided to go off on the summer of 2017, and I went to Rishikesh, India, and I spent 5 weeks there, and I became certified in yoga. And so at the time, I was actually residing in St. Louis. Love you guys if you are on. I was in St. Louis, Missouri, and I came back to the schools that I was working with, and I incorporated mindfulness through a meditation practice for girls in high school who were experiencing some test anxiety specifically, and then just general anxiety. And I also was able to work with kids with disruptive behaviors, as well as ADHD and symptoms of ADHD. And I was able to work with them by pulling them aside and practicing meditation with them. And honestly, the results were profound. So these are of course anecdotal examples and stories, but there is so much research that backs it. But specific to my experience, I would work with this kiddo who was incredibly disruptive in the classroom. I mean, at this point, we had offered movement breaks. We had offered, preferential seating. I believe, for better or worse, the child at the time was medicated on a stimulant. And we were really, as a team, just coming together and just scratching our heads and saying, we're not sure what else we could be doing. And fortunately, at that time, I had my practice of meditation and yoga from my yoga teacher training. And I suggested doing a meditation with this child. And so I pulled him aside, and when he would just refuse the meditation. He would say, I don't need this. I'm disinterested. But he would still come, so clearly he was looking for that attention. So we would get into the room, and we would practice just by doing some muscle relaxation and some stretching to get started. And then we would start to tune in. And what I mean by that is we would sit cross-legged on the floor. We would sit with a posture of dignity. So a posture of really having a straight back and a soft face and shoulders that are relaxed and back, and a chin that's parallel with the ground. And we would close our eyes and try to look at a focus point. So a great focus point is right in between the eyebrows. And we would look at that focus point while our eyes were closed, and we would just focus on the breath. And I helped him through this, one, by talking him and really guiding him through the meditation, starting with the muscle relaxation, just tuning in, paying attention to the body sensations. What tension are you feeling, right? How are you noticing the breath coming in the nose and the breath coming out of the nose? Okay. How is the belly filling when you inhale through the nose? Notice that the belly moves out versus when you're exhaling, the belly moves in, right? So that's actually a tip that sometimes we forget about, or we do incorrectly, is that when we inhale through the nose, the belly moves out. And then when we exhale, the belly moves in. And so we would tune in just with the body sensations. And then we would really focus on recognizing our thoughts and our feelings, and just tuning into them in a non-judgmental manner, and just reflecting and being an observer of our physical body and our mental state. And what I would do with him is I would actually provide some positive affirmations, because at the time this child, he's pretty young, and he was having some difficulty with coming up with positive affirmations. For example, like, I'm a good student, I'm able to follow directions and focus on the teacher. I make my mom proud. I am peace and I'm love. I help others. I'm considerate, right? All of these things that I'm not sure he necessarily recognized, but of course, in his true core and in his true being, he has all of those beautiful qualities. And so I would speak those through positive affirmations. And what happened is that he truly transformed through that process. So through having that positive body posture, through tuning into the breath, and through the positive affirmations, again, that's the core of mindfulness, right? Awareness and acceptance. He was able to be transformed. And so he would leave the meetings, and he would leave them by opening the door for me, and he would graciously walk with me down the hallway, and teachers had noticed changes as well, and it was really quite beautiful. And so this is just one example of many that I have done with kids, and I really do notice the difference in those kiddos, and they love that moment because of the positive attention that we're giving to them. So through mindfulness and through yoga and meditation, we are able to really cultivate a state of being present. So I just wanted to share that little bit of background with you. And then I also wanted to just go ahead and jump into some questions. So one question that has been coming through, and again, I encourage you to ask any questions on the live Facebook, the live Facebook feed, and also you're welcome to add any comments that you have. You're also welcome to just share any suggestions. So if you have your favorite apps that you love that allow you to be engaged in mindfulness, then I welcome you to add to that conversation. Again, I am an expert to some degree in yoga and practicing mindfulness. However, I know that you guys are also experts, and you are especially experts of your kids. And so if you have some awesome strategies that you love to use and you incorporate on a daily basis, go ahead and add those. One of the first questions that I've received is, what exactly is mindfulness, and how can we incorporate mindfulness into our daily lives? And so that's a great question, and I know I kind of already talked about it, but I just want to be really specific about what mindfulness is. So mindfulness is defined by many different professionals as being in the moment, paying attention in the moment, and paying attention non-judgmentally. Okay, so this is something that has been kind of channeled and circulating for a number of years. I mean, it started back in the Eastern side of the world, and it's really, I'm happy that the word mindfulness is even kind of a target word that we're using today, because I think it's so profound just to know that we're actually talking about what mindfulness is in the Western culture. So I'm really proud of us for that. There's a lot of evidence-based treatments out there. So starting back in about the 50s and 60s, Dr. Herbert Benson, he's a medical doctor. He had performed a lot of meditation, specifically with progressive muscle relaxation with patients with physical ailments and physical conditions. Other professionals like Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, he's another who has done some work on treatment called mindfulness-based stress reduction, which is a treatment, an eight-week program for patients who are recovering from physical injuries. Others like Dr. Marsha Linehan who has her evidence-based treatment called DBT, or dialectical behavior therapy, as well as Doctors Williams, Teasdale, and Siegel. They have work called mindfulness-based cognitive therapy for folks with depression and anxiety. There is a lot of evidence-based treatment that is specifically focus on the power of mindfulness, the power of really tuning in, being present in the moment, and having that awareness and that acceptance. So that is a great question, and I hope it answers it. One thing I want to say about mindfulness is I think it's easy for us to talk about mindfulness and say, be mindful in the moment, and we don't always know exactly what that means. And sometimes I think we think it means we have to be really happy in the moment, right? And so maybe in the moment you're actually not having a happy thought, or you're not having a happy feeling, and you're having difficulty with that, and you're in a challenging moment. And I would say that right now, if not now, then I'm not sure another time that as a nation and globally, as a nation in the US and just globally, we are really struggling here. This pandemic is affecting all of us. It is affecting all of us. And so when we say, go ahead and be mindful, I think it's easier said than done. However, if you can incorporate some kind of daily practice, it could even be 3 minutes a day, which is proven to be effective, at least from a physical state, and even just focusing in your mind, you will really feel the power of clarity and feeling present. Okay, so I encourage you to practice mindfulness, just 3 minutes a day, even of sitting and being in a place of peace goes a long way. And this is also something that you can do either taking a mindful moment for yourself, or even working with your child or your family and sitting around at morning meeting, right? Or right before a morning meeting for the kiddos, right before they jump into school, of just sitting with 3 minutes of silence, maybe playing some calm music, and really just tuning in and allowing your kids to just feel body sensations, feelings, and thoughts that come up. So again, when I'm talking about kind of tuning in and just having that acceptance, really what that means is having compassion with whatever thoughts, feelings, and body sensations that come up. And so if in the moment you're actually feeling really bad about something, that's totally fine, right? The point of mindfulness is actually that self-awareness of feeling that thought, and maybe even having some tension in your shoulders, right? It's recognizing that experience of the tense shoulders, or having a specific thought that may not be positive, and then being able to really sit with it and let it go at its own time. Okay. Great activities for mindfulness. Just seeing if we have any questions coming in. Great activities for mindfulness include, I already mentioned sitting and kind of being present in the moment. I also encourage you to really engage your senses during this time. So thinking about sound, a great way to really engage in mindfulness is listening to some peaceful music. I am a huge fan of East Forest. It's a personal favorite of mine. They have some great meditation music. I also love, there's a great playlist on Spotify called Ambient Relaxation. I mean, these are just some ideas. The Calm app also has some great music and playlists. And I know Insight Timer also has some. So again, if you have any great playlists or you have some music, please feel free to add those recordings that you appreciate into our Facebook Live. But really tuning into your senses is a great way to practice mindfulness. So that would be through sound, that would be through sight. If you're going on a nature walk, maybe paying attention to what you're seeing around you. I had another question that came in earlier. I may not have the time to sit down and practice mindfulness right now, but could I engage in mindfulness through a walking meditation? And the answer is absolutely. That's a great time to practice mindfulness, paying attention to what you're seeing and what you're hearing. Other great opportunities to engage in mindfulness, especially with kids, especially young kids, and when you're teaching them the power of really tuning in, being present, and accepting a current state is through visualizations. So I have some very creative families that I work with, and one family in particular, they have incorporated having a beach time and having a beach party, and so which I absolutely love. And so this is a great opportunity to incorporate some kind of mindfulness into the beach party. So invite your kids to wear their favorite swimsuits and bring their favorite towel over to the bathtub, and you fill the bathtub with some warm water, and you have the rubber duckies and all of that, and make it really creative and fun. And then maybe you put on some beach wave music in the background, and then maybe you invite your kids to close their eyes and really just tune into what they're hearing, what they're seeing at the beach, right? What they're feeling, you know, that sense of touch, even the sense of taste. Can they taste the salt water in their mouth? So moments like that are a great way to engage the kids and get involved in practicing mindfulness on a day-to-day basis. All right, so I see some other questions coming through, so let me take a look. All right, so Tina is asking, any specific research for mindfulness in schools? That's a great question. I'm a yoga teacher in Arkansas. Awesome. So let me see. I'm not sure if I see the entire question, but I'm a yoga, or maybe that is it. I'm a yoga teacher in Arkansas, in an Arkansas school setting. So any books or people to look up to learn more about mindfulness? I think this is a fantastic question, and I love that you're asking it. So like I said earlier, great research on mindfulness. There's a variety of different resources that you can look into. Truth be told, so evidence-based wise, the folks I've already mentioned, like Dr. Linehan, she has some incredible stuff on dialectical behavior therapy. She talks a lot about the combination of behavior, kind of being in a moment with your behaviors, and also tuning into more of the mindfulness perspective. And she talks about the changing your environment through either extreme physical activity, or maybe engaging in something that's self-soothing, like taking a hot bath with lavender, Epsom salts. That's one of my favorites. Or changing the temperature in your body. So if you're in a state where you're really feeling hot, washing your face with cold water or jumping into a cold shower actually really helps change that nervous system into a parasympathetic nervous system. So it helps you kind of change the fight or flight system and engage you into a parasympathetic nervous system through the breath, through changing your environment, through physical activity. Other great resources are, I love the book Wherever You Are, or Wherever You Go, There You Are, which is by Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn. That's an incredible resource. He talks a lot about mindfulness and how you can engage in mindfulness on a daily basis. Other exceptional people, I'm actually a huge fan of Gabby Bernstein. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she is a New York Times bestseller. She's a life coach, and she's also a Kundalini yoga instructor, and or at least is Kundalini yoga certified. And she has a very large following, and she talks a lot about how the universe has your back, and really kind of targets the 20-year-old to the adult inner soul, and really targets how you can be mindfulness in the moment, regardless of your situation. So I love a lot of her stuff. She talks about the power of just choice, and how you, when you're in a situation, just knowing that you can always choose again, right? So if you're having a negative state, you can always choose again through just the act of turning a new leaf and kind of turning a corner. So through the power of the mind and the spirit. So Chelsea is asking another question. She's saying, is it possible to incorporate mindfulness in our most challenging moments, like temper tantrums? I think that's a great question. I want to say absolutely. So one thing I know that one of my incredible colleagues, Dr. Bethany Vibber, talked about this just the other day. She talked about paying attention to antecedents, so what comes right before a behavior, and then recognizing what the behavior is, and then paying attention to the consequence, so the thing that comes right after the behavior. And so when we want to be reinforcing positive pro-social behavior, a great way to do that is setting the stage for success. And so that would be where we're targeting that antecedent moment. And so a temper tantrum, I work with a lot of children with behavior disorders and oppositional disruptive disorder in particular. And what I tend to coach parents on is paying attention to how we can set the stage for success. And so what typically happens is a child engages in some kind of a temper tantrum, either because they're trying to get out of something, right? They're trying to escape a task, or maybe they're demanding a lot of attention. And maybe they're demanding it unproductively. And so a great way to incorporate mindfulness before you get into the situation where you are observing and seeing that negative behavior is right before you're anticipating either some kind of a transition, or you're anticipating that they're going to be looking for some kind of attention. And so if you can kind of catch that, so when your child is in a really neutral state, if you could say, you know what, why don't we take 3 minutes to take a mindful moment, or maybe you say something like, let's take our chill time, right? And you sit with your child and you play some calming music, and you tune in by sitting in a posture of dignity and just sitting in quiet. Okay. And maybe after that, you follow with some kind of statement of gratitude. I'm really proud of you for being able to transition onto doing your math homework. Or I want to say that I recognize something that you did earlier today, like helping me, helping clear the table. And that was really impressive. I'm really proud of you right now, right? So you're incorporating not only that mindful moment of awareness and acceptance, but you're also giving them some kind of a positive affirmation, which of course is a part of mindfulness. So I think that's a great question. And how I would incorporate that is when you're targeting the antecedent or setting the stage for success. Another great way to do that is after the consequence. So say the temper tantrum occurs, okay, and then whatever the consequence is that happens, right? And then after that, when you're in a good place and you're debriefing, you may want to take a mindful moment and just share love and kindness to one another, not only to yourself if you kind of reacted to how your child had the temper tantrum, but also give your child the opportunity to show some self-compassion and reconnect and be allies again with your child in that moment. Okay, so let's see. I think there's some other questions coming through. Another thing, so there are some questions that have come up about ways that I can support my anxious child, or I have family who's they're at the front lines of supporting patients with COVID, and first I want to say thank you so much for all that you as parents are doing and all that you are doing for your partners and family to support one another, because that is incredibly important right now. And I will say that mindfulness does play a role here. And so when we're thinking of even these kind of five stages of grief, if you will. So if we're thinking of denial, and then comes anger, and then bargaining or negotiation, and depression, and acceptance. Acceptance is that final state, right? And so when we're talking about mindfulness, we're talking about awareness and acceptance. And so if you can find a way just to tune in and channel energy in a positive way for those individuals, either with anxiety or for those who are who are frontliners in supporting those with COVID right now, and just send them love and compassion and let them know that you are here for them and you are thinking of them. That goes a long way. Okay, so really a huge part of being mindful is not only having that self-compassion for yourself, it's also just showing, giving, and really acknowledging that love and kindness that's surrounding us. All right, so I know we are just at time, so I want to thank you so much for being with us today, and I really hope I answered a lot of your questions. In closing, I really want to say that I hope that this was helpful. And remember, we're back here again on Monday at 10 a.m. I believe Dr. Natalie Wetter, she's one of our psychiatrists, she's going to be presenting in Spanish on Monday at 10 a.m. So be sure to tune in. And again, we are here Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Lastly, I just want to say that the Child Mind Institute is here with mental health and parenting needs of this coronavirus crisis, no matter where you are. We are here to help, okay? We have resources to help, from daily tips to consultations to gold standard telehealth treatments, and you are welcome to check them out at childmind.org/coronavirus. And I am wishing you well, guys, right now. This is a holiday week for many of you. So for those who are celebrating Passover and for those who are celebrating Easter, happy Passover, happy Easter. And I wish you all well. Thank you.